Hello, welcome to the third day preview from Fat Jockey Forum. Jono, Paul, and Paul. We're going to kick straight off with the most exciting race of all time, isn't it, guys? The clash of. It's going to be a damp squib, innit?
Not if it's a two-horse race. Oh, if it's two horses, it'll blow my brain.
Will you?
I can't be having it. I hate it.
Why? What does it matter if we have 100-1 rag running round after him?
You don't want 100-1 rag. You want a couple of horses in there can just take you into the race. I don't.
What horses are there? What's going to do that? What? So you want Bustleton and that Donald McCain horse turning up? So we've got a 4-horse race. That'll be good. I can't wait to see that.
It'd be better.
What difference it makes?
No one wants a 2-horse race. Anyway,
an Ergamine and Shishkin was a 2-horse race, mate. Yeah, and that was one of the best races ever. Doesn't matter what else was in it.
And it was absolutely perfect for the start.
Because there's two of them.
A couple of horses in there, and then they just took it up, and it became at the point of the race that you really cared about. Then bang, done.
Right. So,
what are you going to do when Willie declares Galloping de Champ in the RSA and it's a 1-horse race? What are you going to do? What's worse than blowing your brains?
I'm going to go home.
It's not the number of horses; it's the quality of horses. Two quality horses make a race.
Let's forget about playing a brains. Which one wins?
Bustleton. For me, Galloping de Champ. Galloping de Champ wins. People are against him because he's in the wrong race, and everyone's done their money, and everyone's now Team Bob. I'm not having it. Galloping de Champ. They're over-egging the comments about Willie Mullins saying that he was going too fast, so he's jumping. He needs to go a little bit slower, and then he's an absolute monster again. No issue. Bob Ollinger's not going to get near him. He's going to get walloped.
I totally agree. Not much to add except to say there could be a great deception here. Jungle Boogie was entered in every conceivable chase it could have been in. The Arkle, the 3 mile 6 furlong race, the Brand Advisory, this race. This is the one he's ended up in, although everybody says he's not even going to the festival. So you never know. Great deception. Finished third still, but it's great deception.
Yes, another runner. I think it's really hard to call this actually. I don't think there's much between them. I would side with Galloping de Champ. I think it was Kevin Blake. He was saying that maybe the good ground at the festival might have been a key factor to how impressive Bob Ollinger was last year. If that is the case, then I definitely think it's even closer. But obviously that's an if and what. I think maybe it comes down to a price, but I think you sit back, you watch the race, hope there's another horse in there. If it's 2 horses, you look away and in disgust.
What's
people's brains are all over the walls, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Is that the reason why, John?
But no, what I will say is, despite moaning about 2 horses, I think pretty much everyone on the forum was wanting Galloping de Champ to go in the RSA or whatever you call it. Mullins has rerouted him very loosely. I say that, but this is what the festival is all about. The best 2 novice chasers going against each other. So forget any anti-post bets. We don't really get this. We get the horses going 2 miles, 2.5, 3 miles, and end of the season, the best 3 novice chasers don't meet. Maybe a punch down if we're lucky. So yeah, this is good that we're getting to see them clash.
No, I'm going to be against the 3 of you actually, because I agree. I think it's a coin toss. I don't think anybody could have absolute conviction. So the way I thought about this was, how do I see their futures? And I see Galopin Deschamps as being a potential future Gold Cup winner, and I see Bob Ollinger being better at this mid-trip. If you go back and look at Bob Ollinger's background, he's one of those that, in terms of his background, he reminds me more of Envoy Allen. So Envoy Allen, I don't think ever would have been a Gold Cup horse. Mid trips and classy, turn of foot, that kind of horse. Whereas Galopin Deschamps is that out and out galloping. It doesn't mean out and out gallop can't run over 2.5 miles at this level, of course, but they are always going to be vulnerable to a horse that can go with them, that has that little bit of class. And I think Bob is the horse that can go with him with that little bit of class. It's been said that the reason that Willie has diverted here is because of Bob's race against Capodanno. But he just put that race away in a matter of strides. Capodanno is going to be probably won't place in the Brown Advisory, but it was just the way he did that. Those horses that come along every so often that have got the button to press. It strikes me as the kind of race that he'll have a button to press. So put him up to 3 miles, you take that away from him. So that was why I came down on that side. I came down with Bob because I think he's probably the genuine 2.5 miler. I'm
going to ask you a question here, Paul, because when we did the podcast, if you remember, after I didn't watch Galopin Deschamps' chase debut live, but you said he was the most exciting horse since Courto Star, and you're now tipping up Bob Ollinger in a 50-50, and I think that needs highlighting because, don't get me, you are absolutely right. It is a bit of a twin cost, and I definitely although, like I've said, Galopin Deschamps wins. Like I've dutched them myself. They're both odds against. I've dutched them. If I hadn't done that, I just wouldn't have a bet in the race. There's no way I actually strongly fancy Galopin over Bob at the prices they are to go absolutely nuts on them. If I had to have a bet, Galopin is the one for me. But for a horse that you thought was the best horse since Courto Star, which was massive at the time, I suppose I'm just surprised to see that you've switched allegiance.
Because I looked at him in that race as a 3 mile novice. Okay. So, looking at the way he jumps and the way, because he's a galloper, there was no change of pace there. He's an out and out galloper that we know stays. And to be able to, travel at that kind of pace for 3 miles marks him out as special. Doesn't mark him out as specialist over 2.5, does it? Because, plenty of horses can gallop over 2.5 miles. But can they keep it the same gallop as him? Don't know. I suspect Bob Ollinger can, and he's got a turn of foot as well. So, potentially, if he is on his shoulder and there is that button to press, then, there is a point in the race, maybe down the bottom bend or just before the last, where it can be pressed and he just gains the advantage that he needs. I don't think either of us are doubting the pair of them staying up the hill. So, for me, it comes down to which horse is in front after the last. And I think Bob Ollinger has the gears. That's the thing for me.
Okay. Brill, anyone else? Anything on the best 2-horse race of all time? Okay, so the Pertemps 24-horse race, although we can narrow it down to 7 because, wow, have I got the stat to hand? I posted it on the forum today. So in the last 6 renewals, Gordon Elliott's had 10 runners. There've been 3 firsts, 5 seconds, and the worst of all 10 finished 5th. At the moment, he's got 7 runners in this race, with the least likely, I believe, Mars Harper, who we already know that Paul really fancies. And I've seen someone said that he wasn't running, but if he runs all 7, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, isn't it?
Yeah, if you believe the stable talk, she goes for the pipe. Is what Elliot said in the Sporting Life. But so he should have 6 if they stick to that.
Yeah, I suspect Falcone might not come here as well.
Really? Where's he going?
Yeah, I'm not sure Falcone stays.
Well,
maybe he does come here, and maybe he just doesn't stay in the race. But
that is a possibility. But yeah, so I mean, I assume everyone's starting point is Gordon Elliott for this. I mean, I absolutely love Cider Burley for it. £4 higher than when he last won it, but I assume he'll have a claimer on taking 7 or 3 off. He played to the Stayers hurdle last year. He's just going to run to his. If he runs to his rating, then how many are going to be better handicapped than him? I'm not sure. So I mean, he's 6-1, 5 places, best price at the moment. We'll probably get a little bit better than that tomorrow. But I can't see how he's not placed in the race. I think he's absolutely laid out for it. And the other one of his that I've backed is also his second shortest runner, so I'll be as brief as I can. But Dunboyne, I was not happy at all to see him declared for the race at the Dublin Racing Festival. I think that would have blown his mark, and I obviously then backed him for that race, worried about that, and he made a mistake, and that ruined his chance in the race. And he just came home fine, which means he's sort of still live for this. But what put me off that is the fact that I think he was running on merit in that race, and he would have picked up the pot and then left this race behind, which is making me think it's not sort of the plot it was. It sort of has fallen in his lap if he wins this. So my main dart would be very, very boring. It's the joint favourite, but Cider Burley, just impossible. Now, if he doesn't get a claimer on, then I'll probably move to one of the others. But if Rob James is jocked up on this, then it's a done deal. There's no way he's out the frame.
Again, it might change, but that's what's been said. He gets Rob James up to £7.
Yeah. So I assume he's going to win. He's just going to win.
Yeah, I'll go next because I'll follow that. I think they've done unbelievably well to get him racing off what will effectively be 149. Yeah, he's a Cheltenham Festival horse for all to see. But he was rated 160 the back end of last year. I keep going back to Durasso for a lot of form lines, but he was beaten 6 lengths by him. And Durasso obviously has been running in the 150s. It was a trip too short for Cider Burley. First time out, he was given £5 and he was hampered by Flooring Porter when he fell. So yeah, we know he improves for the festival. To me, I think he's held close to his form. There's every reason to think that he will run to at least 150 or the low 150s, and that's going to be quite tough. It's all very well. I think me and Lou Boss on the forum had a back and forth. I know he's a big Dunboyne fan, saying, but he gets 20 odd pounds, and that's all very well. But we know handicaps aren't that simple. If they were, then the whole field would finish in a heap, because obviously that's the idea of them. Horses need to match Cider Burley. I think he's absolutely a superb bet.
He's won this twice, and so at Cheltenham he's won this twice and then finished second, 3 1/4 lengths to Flooring Porter. In between that, he's beaten French Dynamite. He was 6 lengths behind Flooring Porter, who was the Stayers Hurdle future winner. 6 lengths behind Durasso, who was Frank the Form Synth. Pulled up then behind Classical Dream, and then 4th of 7th to qualify for the race. Like it's ludicrous.
Yeah, there's no reason to think that he's suddenly had a massive downward spiral. To me, he's still a 150s horse. So yeah, I'm a massive fan. But like you say, any Elliott horse has to have serious consideration. One non-Elliott horse, just I think worth mentioning, is Ballyandy. He gets £10 off. So he will, I think he'll go off on 140. Step up to 3 miles, hasn't been a hindrance, last twice. And yeah, I just think I think he's worth a look. He finished second in the Greatwood behind the shunter actually a couple of years back of 154. Obviously he's getting on a bit now, but they seem to kind of found a new lease of life with him. I think Finn Lambert is the jockey that will take the £10 off. He's ridden the horse in his last 4 times, 4 runs, including 2 wins. So he knows the horse well. I think they've probably been planning this for a while. So yeah, of the non-Elliott horses, I think he's 20 to 1. I think he's of interest for me.
Yeah, well, I know Saxon Warrior liked him as well, didn't he? So, in good company. Paul.
Yeah, I'll go. Cider Burley, I think, is sort of grade 1 horse running in a handicap, and I think, you said Kev about his Cheltenham background, so very difficult to dismiss. I will repeat Miles Harper for the second last time, just in case he does run here. And the other one, non-Elliott, which, well, first of all, Born Patriot, I think probably will struggle here. Although they did run a decent race in the qualifier back in, I think, October, where he finished behind Kansas City Chief. But I think going to struggle a little bit here. But I know Peter is hopeful more than anything. But the one I just wonder about at a bit of a price, the horse running off the same mark as when he won at Cheltenham over 3 miles, which is Honest Vic, who has been running over fences, but I think that's to protect his hurdle mark. He's actually come down from 146 down to 141. He won over at that mark a couple of years ago at Cheltenham on this course, not on this course, on the old course. But I could see him running a good race, and would be interesting, I think, at 25s or whatever each way.
Yeah, I think by the time we get to the Albert Bartlett and Hillcrest, we'll have Henry Daly as top Cheltenham trainer. So I'm not going to talk about Remaster because I don't think he's going to get in. Looking at the horses above him, he's 26 on the list of 24. So unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get in. I think he would be very fortunate now. I think those that are declared are likely to run. And assuming that Gordon Elliott is as good as his word, that all of his are running, that certainly will be the case. The only one that we think might not actually is Mars Harper. If you go by the trends, then the 2 trend horses are Winter Fog and Dunboyne, because of they're both placing in the DRF. At the Leopardstown qualifier. So they'd be the 2 that you put in from the trends. But incredibly boring. I am 100% with you guys. Cider Burley is the one. £7 coming off. I don't care whether he's giving £15 to horses that look well handicapped. He can give them £15 because he's that much better.
Yeah, you wouldn't back. What was that horse? You wouldn't back Dunboyne in the Stays Hurdle with £15 less, would you?
No.
So, I'm surprised. Was it that Lobos is a massive Cider Burley fan? He was putting up for the Stayers for years and years, wasn't he? When I was dead against him.
I can't remember, but yeah, he's dead on Dunboyne this year.
Fair enough. Okay, perfect. So, anyone got anything to add? I mean, I don't want to waffle on, but like Winter Fog, I thought was a bit of a lay. And then I ended up backing him because I'm a worm. But he's a lay at the price, and he's not like you could. He's a lay. He's a lay, and when he doesn't win, I'm going to pretend that I didn't back him, and I'm going to be like, I told you, he was rubbish. Won't stay. won't stay, and even top judges, every single one of them is just like, oh, it's Emmett Mullins. Look what he did with the shunter, as if that makes any difference to this horse. Makes no difference to his chance of winning. He is a horror price, and I'm an absolute worm for backing him.
Thing is, you didn't.
It's Kvega's fault. He made me.
He's probably a shade on the short side. I don't think he's a horror price. I think if you go back and re-watch the qualifier at Leopardstown, they made quite a lot of use of him, and I suspect deliberately so. I think there's quite a bit more to come from that horse, but they're just going to run into him on the side of Burley.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Am I right in thinking you didn't just back him though? You went in well in you went in for the place market, the win market. You went steamed into him.
What can I say? I'm a worm, but I know it's wrong. Do what I say, not what I do.
It sounds like the worm's turning.
All right, let's move on and talk about your each way better than Allaho.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Do you know? I hope Conflated gets. Well, no. If Conflated gets, I don't hope Conflated comes here. Go for the Gold Cup. Right decision if they do. But if he comes here, Conflated is the only horse that I think can beat Allaho.
Haven't they said he's coming here now? I think we've said he's coming here now.
Yeah, but I don't believe it till I see it. But I do believe he can beat Allaho. Not a strong. I don't think he is likely to, but I just think he's the only horse in the rest of the field that would. Don't think Shamblu could. Energumene's not going to run. Chacampassoir's not going to run. Janadil is the next in at 10-1, and he's most people's one to pick up the pieces, but he's been put in his place by Allaho. Eldorado Allen, just on balance of his intermediate form, isn't good enough. Mellon, I did put up at 50-1 for this race with Jono. Got slated. Looks a pretty solid bet. I'd like him. Envoy Allen not going to run. Assyrian Falange not going to run. Mr. Fisher's rubbish. St. Calvados burst last time. Fanny and Destraval is 40-1, and that's the entire field. So Conflated at 13-2, non-run no bet each way would definitely be my bet. He's just better than all the other horses. He's better than Janadil, in my opinion. I don't really like any of the others, to be honest, like other than Mellon. So the thing I like about Conflated though is he's just improving, and I like he's the only horse that I really do think is improving in this field enough to have a win chance. So it's not that I'm saying it's not that Janadil isn't improving or Eldorado Allen or Shamblu can't be improving. It's just Conflated has now got proper Grade 1 winning form, and none of the others have. Not proper open company Grade 1 winning form, so he's the only one that could. I fully expect Allaho to win and Conflated to chase him home if they're declared in it. I've backed Janadil like most people have in the without market, but Conflated for me is just better than him. That win last time is way above anything that anything else has done, and that's where I am in this race.
Well, for me, Allaho put in a bit of a freak performance last year, and horses tend not to do that twice. So I think everybody's judging Allaho on last year and assuming he repeats that. He may well run his race and be good enough anyway, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as simple. I think that my two, clearly I am on him. And again, from the long run, anti-post price. But the two I'd say against him there would be Conflated and Shamblu. Conflated, I kind of agree with you, although often that the Gold Cup at the Dublin Racing Festival does throw up some strange results from time to time that often don't repeat. And he is a bit quirky. So we have to believe that he's made all of that improvement and, others didn't run their race. So I'm not entirely convinced. But the one thing with Conflated is he's going to be at the head of affairs. Allaho is not going to have the run of the race like he did last year. So it's not going to be, as again, not going to be as straightforward for Allaho as it was. Chamblou, I think, is interesting for a very different reason. He's been hung on to all season for this because they believe he's that good. If they were interested in handicaps, they'd have run him off 148 because they're going to romp the plate. So that's a hint in itself, I would suggest, of how high esteem they hold Chamblou in. And again, the interesting thing is he's one that likes to get on with things. I don't think Gallagher's going to have a particularly easy race here.
Do you think? Sorry to interrupt you, Paul. But like when you're saying that, I just can't help. Like last year, Min and Mellon were in the race, and Allaho bossed it because he was better than them. Like there's no way you can't just say he won't have it his own way because he'll just run off in front again. Because Min is better. Min is better than Chamblou.
Was
any day.
Was.
And what?
Min was.
Min would beat him now in retirement.
Min was well past his best last year. He didn't put it. Min's performance was a stone behind his best, so not having that. And Mellon, is the perennial bridesmaid wherever you put him. He either finishes second or nowhere. So, and he's not going to harry or worry Allaho at the front of the race either. What you've got with Conflated and Chamblou is two younger horses coming through that want to be prominent in just the same way that Allaho does. So it makes for a very different race for Allaho now. He can't just go and jump them into absolute submission because it's probable that one of those two is going to go to the front. Either that or Allaho, Paul Townend's got a decision to make, hasn't he? To go too quick to get to the front. So I don't think this is as straightforward and silent for Allaho as people think it is. I'm not saying he won't win the race, but I think he's one. It's one of those races where I think he should have cover somewhere else, and for me, that's where your cover is either Conflated or Chamblou.
Yeah, I'll just say mine actually. Chamblou's record, after a break is pretty good as well. And to your point, Paul, I think they have sort of put him away until this. His run last year wasn't anything to shout about, to be quite honest. But I struggle to find one. I'd have it each way or without Allaho because I would be scared that Allaho's just got enough class to do what he wants in this race. But we shall see.
I fully agree. I don't think Allaho will put in as good a performance as last year because it was a freak. It was up there with some of the best performances we've ever seen. But I don't think that matters. I still think he's ahead of this field. You can't really crab him for what he's done since. Ran second behind Chacun Brossois, Punchestown over 2 miles. He's been hitting the 170s, 178 RPR in his last run. First time out was only 168, but we know he's a horse that tends to need it. So I think it's kind of irrelevant, to be honest. I think he's just got too much for this. Just on a couple of them. So I said about Janadil on our value pod. Kev, I'll just remind you about the date of April the 4th when Janadil smashed Conflated by 17 lengths over this distance. I'd be happy enough to look at that form over the 3 miles that Janadil doesn't stay. I would be looking back to that race on similar ground as who will get the better of that one. And just on Chamblou, I think when Paul mentions a Dan Skelton horse, it's definitely worth noting, but I am against him. I just think he posted on obviously he fell, but on RPRs, it was £16 higher than anything he'd done previously. Last season, I wasn't a fan at all, so I'm just a bit dubious. I don't really rate that Weatherby race. I know Fussell Raffles is a bit of a fancy for the plate, but yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. When I see Chamblou posting 170s.
When Paul talks up a skeleton horse, genuinely what I think is just like, well, yeah, because he's connected to the yard now. So owner fancies own horse and it's just, let's have a bit of balance, because people will be listening to this thinking the same thing. But if you backed a horse every time someone connected to a horse or a yard fancied a horse, you'd be poor, and you'd back every horse in every race, which I try my best to do. But that doesn't, just because they like Chamblou. I mean, I look at Chamblou last year, he was behind Chancery Larder, Syrian Phalange, Fusel, Raffles and Chancery House. So when Paul said, oh, he'll absolutely hack up in the plate if they decided to go there, well, for me, Fusel Raffles would wallop him. And I fancy Fusel Raffles. But he was better than him last year, and he's better off with him this year. So I fancy him, and we'll get on to him. But that, to me, isn't a reason to over-egg it, to be honest. Like, Chamblou's fine. He's just fine. But I'd be surprised if he won.
Yeah.
The point with, you're absolutely right. When Janadil being conflated over course and distances, we're taking note of. I think Conflated's a better horse now than he was then, but it's a perfectly valid reason to bring up, because he might not confirm the form. That's definitely right.
I'll reserve my right to reply until we get to the Gold Cup.
Why, he's winning that Protectorate?
Yeah, exactly. Probably.
Okay, Brill. Where are we up to next then? Stayers Hurdle. Is everyone all done on? So hang on, no final selections for the Ryanair. So Allaho for me wins. Doesn't need to be as last year. Wins anyway. Definitely like Conflated as a massive danger. If Conflated doesn't run, then I would be with Janadil, each way, and I would lay Chamblou.
Chamblou without the favourite.
Paul?
For me, Allaho, no issue, quite easy. And yeah, Janadil to follow him home, pick up the pieces quite late.
Yep, I'm exactly the same as Paul. Chamblou without the favourite.
Okay, Brill. On to the Stayers Hurdle, and who's going to kick us off there?
Classical Dream. There we go. Said it. I just think he's the class act. They've said that they shouldn't have run him last time. They knew it was a mistake. Go back to the race before, people say he pinched it at the start, but I don't entirely agree with that. What that did was put to bed the whole thing with Florian Porter, though, that he has to have a lead, and he might throw the toys out if he doesn't get it. So Florian Porter, has allayed those doubts. But for me, Classical Dream was actually on seasonal debut at that time when Florian Porter had a run. So in fact, he's had a couple of runs at that point. So I just think that. That should have been in Florian Porter's favour that day. But Classical Dream, I thought, did it from the front. Did it the hard way, and still kept running through the line. And I think, on decent ground around Cheltenham, I think he'll confirm that form.
I think it's much more fun when we disagree, Spectre, but I wholeheartedly agree with you here. Like, Classical Dream is just the best horse in the race, and he's not favourite. So he'd be the one I'd be putting up at 9-2. I think the English, like, if you like Time Hill, Champ, or Paisley Park, then the problem is they're all so interlinked. If you like one of them, you have to like all of them. So I'd much rather just sort of pin my hopes on the Irish being better and, like, all right, Florian Porter's 3-1 now, but I'd rather be with Florian Porter and Classical Dream than I would the English ones and just hope that.
I will say that Roy Kahar's interested in this with the mare's allowance, and obviously up in trip. Just that doubt about the ground. I've not spoken to Warren for some considerable time, who runs the syndicate, so I don't have a line or any thoughts on that. But there just has to be a doubt about the ground for her. But if she does handle it, I think she's in the mix.
Yeah.
So at the risk of having some fun, I do disagree about Classical Dream and Florian Porter. I think Danny Mullins is the best front-running jockey in Ireland by a distance. And if you watch the start of the race at Christmas, when I do think Classical Dream pinched the lead, and then look at Danny Mullins sort of look around, talking to the other jockeys, like, "What the hell has just happened? Is it?" It completely changed how that race was going to be run. Yes, he ran on; he was beaten 2 lengths and all of that. I do think Florian Porter will try to take the lead on Thursday, and we may see a different result. Classical Dream is a good horse first time out. I mean, it was 487 days off when he won at Punchestown last year, and it's first time out again at Christmas this year. So do not underestimate just how good a horse he is first time out. Mistake to run at Goran. I don't know. It was in retrospect, but nobody said that before the race. I think he seemed to be going very well at the time and just didn't find anything. Rokahala obviously won that race, the Galmoy, but he didn't beat Home by the Lee. Well, she didn't beat Home by the Lee by very much on a favoured softer ground. So that would be a bit of a concern regarding Rokahala. Although I did text Peter after she'd won at Leopardstown at Christmas saying you've got to go to Stayers. She needed all of the 2 mile 5 or whatever that was, 2 mile 6 at the time. She wouldn't have been suited by the mare's hurdle. 2 mile 4 or 5 is not far enough for her on the old course. I think this course is a better course for her. She was injured in this race in the novices last year, so you got that to worry about in terms of the course itself. But I would love to see her run a big race. For me, Florian Porter is, it's probably a good bet, and with Danny Mullins riding, I've got a lot of confidence here in him to ride the race he wants to. Apart from that, Paisley Park, I thought, had a bit of a renaissance in his last race, and really the way that horse comes around that bottom bend and powers up the hill is, when he was at his peak, was really incredible, and he showed a bit of that last time out. So I think that's something to watch out for. But for me, Florian Porter, and that's it.
And I'll go with Classical Dream. I think he's still unexposed really at 3 miles. Just disregard last time. It was £20 below what he had done the 2 starts previous, basically. So for me, I just treat it as a freak result. Willie Mullins has given some reasoning why. So he's had 2 runs of 3 miles and he's looked an absolute superstar. I think I've seen a few. There's quirky sorts all over the place with this race. I've seen a few mentions how Classical Dream might handle, obviously the festival, the crowds, the preliminaries, etc. I think in a way, actually, it might help him. I mean, if you look at
Supreme. So.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He won at Supreme, and actually, he was going down the post, and he looked. I mean, you wouldn't have wanted to back him when you were looking at him. He was on his toes. He was on edge. Difficult to control, but bolted up. And actually, he was the race at Christmas won against Florian Porter. I know, obviously, a lot of the talk after when they interviewed Paul Townend was how well you did to get a lead there and pinch a lead, and it wasn't his choice. The horse just went. It wasn't Townend being clever. So I actually almost think that to have the horse kind of on edge, on his toes, might actually be a help. We've seen twice where that's kind of happened, where kind of 2 instances where you think he's in trouble here and he's bolted in. So yeah, I think I do agree with you, Paul, that the break, I would have loved to have seen him just pull stumps at Christmas and then just target this race. My only hope is we know he basically just turned up for that race in January. He said as much. I'm hoping that because they didn't train him again for that race, they kind of let him down and just turned up on the day, right. So I'm hoping, obviously he ran over 3 miles, but Townend took it easy. I'm hoping it didn't really affect it too much, and almost it's not like he's had a massive race where they've let him down at Christmas, ramped up the training again to getting ready, and then they've got to do it again. I'm hoping it almost can be kind of meaningless. So yeah, I think he's still absolutely the class angle in the race. So I would be chancing him to kind of pick back up where he left off.
So that's you, Classical Dream, Paul, Classical Dream, me, Classical Dream, Dutched with Foreign Porter, and Paul, Foreign Porter. No hope for the English then. That's the way to go. Okay, perfect. So, anything else to say on that, or are we happy to move on to the plate?
No, nothing else.
Okie dokie. Anyone got a strong fancy in the plate then?
The Glancing Queen.
Glancing Queen.
Two that I've liked from a long way out. Wasn't sure whether she'd come here or not. And the other one is one that you've already mentioned on the Shamblu form line, which is Foozle Raffles. I've had it in my diary right from the start of the season that Foozle Raffles on a mark any 150 or less, then I'd be really interested for this. And he's got him in on 149. And Nicky Henderson, Mr. Halo, Mr. Whiter than White is not averse to handicapping horses at all. And clearly he's been doing that across the season. So Foozle Raffles will get its ground. Course and distance winner off a very handy looking mark. It is a bit of a specialist race, that mid-trip handicap, as we've seen. Horses coming back and doing well in the race itself. We watched, the big handicaps there, the Paddy Power, whatever all those races are called this year, the three across the season. You see the same horses coming back, running well time and time again. So I think all that course form stands Foozle Raffles in good stead. But the same is true of Glancing Queen. So now Alan King said she's coming here. I think she's a very well handicapped horse. I wouldn't put anybody off touching those two if I'm really honest. There are other horses in there that you've got to consider. It's not just about those two. There are plenty of dangers. Grand Parody looks like it's Gordon's horse. Class Act, possible future graded horse, but definitely got some jumping frailties. Jumped better last time, to be fair. Could end up being just ridiculously well handicapped, but it's not a race he's done that well in the past. And a couple of sort of bigger each way price on the same principle as the course and distance horses for courses type thing. Cool Cody is 25 to 1, and Spirit of the Games is 33 to 1. Probably worth waiting for the extra places. Cool Cody is probably slightly more interesting of the two because you want a horse that runs prominently in that race. Spirit of the Games doesn't. Always stays on really well, but only stays on into the places. If they could ever get him going, not running him out the back, then he'll go and win one of those, but it's probably too late for him now. So they're the ones that are on my mind. But Glancing Queen and Foozle Raffles will probably be touching those two.
Perfect. I'm going to jump straight in there because you mentioned my two strong fancies. So 100% Foozle Raffles. Still only 7. I feel like he's been around for more than 7 years, but my mole tells me that he's been plotted all season, which you've alluded to as well. Like even his last run where he was sort of well fancied, or people thought he was well fancied and they're backing him, he's just not for him. And people talk about 3 miles. That's not what I've been hearing all year round. That course and distance win, the ground coming in his favour, festival form as well, placed in the Marsh last year. I think 14 to 1's massive price for him. And the other one I really like is Grand Parody, but that's because of that race with and Frontal Certainty in the Kinmure. Like the Ultima, the Plate, and the Kinmure are going to be taken down from that one race. That's a wonderful treble to get on. I agree. Grand Parody's jumping does need to be better. I think he his first race this season he sort of flopped a little bit because he was on the mind for maybe being a Marsh Turner's horse. And then as soon as they sort of don't win, because it's Gordon Elliott, if he was with Willie Mullins, he might be running in that race and he might have gone a different route. But the way he's been campaigned does, and it doesn't bother me that Gordon's not got a great record in the race, because that's just one of those stats that's not going to last forever, and especially this year, I feel like Gordon's going to be. And the fact he's got 2 runners in the Ultima is ringing a bell for me. It's like, wow, he's never done that before, and now he's got 2 fancied runners. I think he's had a lot of time to sit and plan exactly where he needs a lot of horses to be, and Fleur off 146, and then Grand Parody in front of the Salt 145. I think he was absolutely buzzing with them, and I would definitely put up those 3 as a treble or a Trixie. But yeah, they were my 2 strong fancies. But I do like the other ones you mentioned as well. Spirit of the Games, in particular, came up on the forum today. So yeah, I no more to add. But yeah, I really like all of those.
I think that the reason that I didn't put Grand Parody up was just that concern. They take no prisoners in that race. It's run like a 2-mile chase, and I just worry about his jumping. I really do worry about his jumping. He's one of those Gordon Elliott horses that doesn't convince over his fences at all.
No, hopefully
and they tend not to win.
Do you think they'll get? I'm hoping they get Davy Russell on, and that would immediately make him a single figure.
I'd imagine he will. It could be Jack Kennedy, of course, but Davy tends to ride the Colwell construction horses, doesn't he? So
I'd love that. Davey. I think, to be honest, like 14-1, I think if Davy Russell's chalked up, you could get out of the bet if you wanted to. I'd be backing that now.
Yeah.
14-1 non-run, no bet. He's not going off bigger than that.
No, I agree.
Okay, I'll be quick. Brazil Raffles certainly is one I would absolutely respect and probably would go with, to be quite honest, particularly at the price. The trials meeting always, the winner of that 2.5 mile race always seems to run well in this, and Imperial Alcazar obviously won that by 10 lengths. Not totally convinced. I think the price is certainly short enough at 8-1, but certainly on the short list. And the other one, which I don't know what to expect, Busselton can get himself badly positioned, outpaced, and then he'll certainly be staying on. There's no doubt about that. The question is it will be too far back to do that. I think they ran him over 2 mile 1, which is way too short for him last time, just to try and sharpen him up so he could get ready for this sort of pace. And he was in a grade 1 as well. So I think they were just trying to get him jumping quicker. And I think it was with a mind on running in this race. So I could see him running a better race and outrunning his odds. So that will be puzzled.
I don't have a massive strong fancy here, but all the ones you touched on, yeah, Fussell, Raffles, Grand Parody, Busselton, Glancing Queen, and yeah, Spirit of the Games will get a place as always.
Happy days.
I thought he would have been in the middle of Dalen, actually. I wouldn't put him up at the price, but he's clearly unexposed. He's come out of France, as a lightly raced 9-year-old when he came over here, 10-year-old now, with no miles on the clock. And he's been winning his races with a double handful, really. But he isn't for me. He's not my idea of the winner, but I suspected that somebody might put him up for this.
Just too short with Philip Hobbs training for me. Disrespectful as that is, I couldn't be backing a single figure favourite Philip Hobbs trained French horse for the plate when there's other horses I strongly fancy. If he wins, that's fair enough, because I just missed the price and I'm okay with that.
To be fair, last time you said that, Philip Hobbs phoned me and said he wouldn't be backing your tips either. So
Understandable. Okay, Mares Novice Hurdle then. So my notes when I did this was choice of words at 33-1, and that's now 20-1. So I'll strike that one. But still at 20-1, Mighty Blue placed in the race last year at 20-1. The race isn't any better this year. The best horse or the favourite has been ruled out. He's been campaigned. He's got built loads of experience. There's second season novices have won this race before for Willie Mullins, but Joseph O'Brien's the future greatest trainer of all time, so no issue with. I mean, when we look back in the echelons of time, when he's picked up more Grade 1 winners than his dad, it won't be a surprise that he won some Cheltenham Festival races or more Cheltenham Festival races along the way. So, Team Jobo. But 20-1, it's too big. He placed in the race last year. The only reason that she's that big, is because she was beaten last year, so people don't think it's sexy enough. The horses that beat her last year are favourite for the Mares Novice Hurdle, and then Magic Days seems to be the talking horse from the previews across the Arkle. Now, I know we've not talked her up, but it's not ludicrous, is it? Like, they're obviously well fancied. Third on merit last year. Is this race better this year? You've got Party Central third favourite this year, who has come from a tiny handicap rating, and she's now running on merit, so she's won a handicap on the way. Brandy Love jumps 7 miles to the left, which, although it's not awful to go left-handed jumping to the left, it's still not ideal. And Dino Blue's run once. Now, Dino Blue's probably the one I'd like the most, but she's now favourite. So it's not like it's the strongest running of this race. It's not like we've got a Limmy or a Lorena where everyone knows it's the one from Willie. Willie didn't win the race last year, so I don't see why 20-1's disrespectful for a horse that's already placed in the race. When the horses that are worse than her and have got worse form are shorter. So my tip would be Mighty Blue 20-1.
I don't disagree with that, actually. I like her for the race as well. I think she's a really good each way price for all the reasons you said. I don't need to add anything to that. For win purposes, the one I like is Dino Blue. Don't like Brandy Love. I think she wants further. Same thing around the jumping. Party Central is a horse I've never really taken to. I know Brian Cooper, when Gronji fell, said he was on the best horse in the race. Well, that's a good way of keeping a ride for the festival, isn't it? She's not. Not disliking Impervious still. I still do quite like her. Running the Royal Bond, she was 5th in that. Didn't run a best race. Colin Murphy thought he ran her again too soon in that race. That was his view. He's deliberately kept her fresh for this, but given she's been beaten and a bit of time out, most people aren't going to be jumping on to 8-1 or whatever she is now. So I wouldn't be putting her up unless you were on at the bigger prices. But Dino Blue is the one for me. I think she's going to turn out to be a little bit of a superstar. People maybe haven't latched onto her properly because she's only had that one run. But I thought that made a real impression on me, that run.
Yeah.
And there was lots more to come as well. So she's the one for me, and I agree with you. I think, what's the name? Mighty Blue. Each way, I think, is a
Mighty Blue and Dina. But to be fair, I'm not against Dina Blue. It's just she's now 9-4 favourite.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, to me, she's the one I like the most as well. But she's 9-4. So
I might have to mention her because I might have put a small win bet at the end.
Fair play.
But the other thing I'd say about Mighty Blue is she's rated 108 on the flat, and she's maintaining that kind of rating as well. And we know she's useful over hurdles, so that's a real high base.
Perfect.
I can't add a great deal. Party Central, I think, is she won at Leopardstown, and that was not the best handicap of a rating of 121. So won comfortably enough, but 121 you've got to be much better than that to win this. Not sure that she is. I'm a little bit where you are, guys. With Mighty Blue. I mean, to come here on the back of one run when that was an unseat, admittedly at the last, on ground way softer than the horse would want. 20-1. That's got to be a decent shout each way in this race.
Yeah, I'd say similar. I actually think, forgot about Mighty Blue. I think last year's race does look fairly strong. Even if you look, I doubted it at first, but if you look, I know like Royal Kahala didn't kind of turn up. Sky A, she followed up a Fairy House. So it does look a decent race. I know we don't quite know what this will do. So I think each way you have to back her. But yeah, for me, Dino Blue has been the most impressive novice mare that I've seen from Willie Mullins since this race started. She blew me away actually on debut. Her first ever run, I was so taken with it. I know we've had the kind of early on, we had those first few horses, the Limones, the Larinas. I mean, Larina, I know she kind of stuttered near the end of her career, but she won at Tremor, she didn't even get in the stable tours. The kind of vibes from her did come fairly late. Yeah, I was hugely taken with Dino Blue. Obviously, the one run isn't ideal. Now Mullins hasn't won it with a horse that's had one run, but Concertista, he almost did it going fresh, just got nutted on the line. Elfile, she had the one run, she ran very well, and I think there's been a couple of others that he has sent to the race with just the one run. I think if she had that second run, she would be the clear Mullins number one here. The odds of the money's come for her, obviously. I didn't actually look at the race for a while. I was kind of shocked with her price now, but I'm massively taken with her. I think Brandy Love, yes, she's going to go left-handed, which helps, but she was so violently, her jumper was so violently left. I think there's more of an issue there than just a change in direction. And I can't really have too many of the other Mullins runners. Obviously, you've always got to be wary of them. So yeah, Mighty Blue is the each way selection, but Dino Blue is I think she's the next Mullins mare superstar.
It's pretty unanimous then. Nice. We'll move on to the final race of the Thursday. Kim Muir. Jono, do you want to kick us off? You haven't kicked off for a while.
Yep. Obviously, you've got the Gordon Elliott frontal assault favourite. It's Elliott's race, isn't it? He's got two at the head of the market. I do like Schoolboy Hours, but I'm not sure if he is going to run. Obviously, Derek O'Connor didn't really mention him as a possible ride. So I would guess he probably comes out tomorrow, day after next. Frontal Assault.
Did Champagne Platinum run today in Ireland?
Yeah.
So
I think he pulled up.
Okay, he's definitely not going.
I think he's.
Oh, Glenn Lowe will get in, won't he now? Because after the last X, I was just trying to figure out whether. Derek kind of had a ride.
So Elliot said Derek's either going to have the ride on. Well, it was quoted on Glenlow or. Elliot said if he doesn't ride Glenlow, he's got someone else up his sleeve. And then Derek O'Connor said, I'll either be on Glenlow or Champagne Platinum. So I'd assume Schoolboy Hours doesn't go. I think Frontal Assault. Yeah, I think Frontal Assault. Obviously, there's a lot of confidence with him.
Schoolboy Hours is gonna. He came out of the Ultima, but he's blue all over.
Yeah,
that's because he's come out of the Ultima, though, isn't it?
Who is it? Yeah,
people just switch the stakes, haven't they?
I think, Frontal Assault, there's massive confidence there, and I really like his chances. The race actually isn't always that great for favourites. I know Mount Ida, I think she bucked the trend last year, actually, because there's been some shorties. I know Maldini was a massive fancy. He just lost out. Measure My Dreams actually was a completely different profile to Frontal Assault. He was 3-1 favourite, which looks a bit mad now. But yeah, back Gordon Elliott basically. Smoking Gun has Jamie Codd on board. I do like Mr. Fog Patches. Patrick Mullins gets the ride. But yeah, I would go with the front pair, to be honest. Just because it's Gordon Elliott, I'd be against Glenlow because he's not good enough. It would kill me if he wins. Absolutely kill me. Worse than seeing a 2-runner race at the festival. That would finish me off if Glenlow then wins the Kinmure. But yeah, I'll go be boring and go with one of the Elliott pair at the front of the market.
I think Squire Mere would have been worse, but I'll go next. I'm happy to. Not a great deal to say about this race. I do think you mentioned Jono, Mr. Bog Patches. If ever a horse deserved to win a decent handicap, he's been running so consistently. Really good run in the Fiestas, I thought. And it's not too badly handicapped. He's just a very consistent horse. I think you're getting your run. Patrick Mullins is riding it. I think is a sign that they mean business, and of course, and so that's as far as I've got in this race. But I think Mr. Bogpatch is not only deserves to win it, but I think he's got a real chance of doing it.
I think he ran a nice race at the December meeting at Cheltenham, and Danny Mullins rode him. But I didn't think he got the best of rides from Danny Mullins, actually. He had him too far back and gave him too much to do, and Commodore was gone. But if he hadn't let Commodore go, it may have been deliberate because they were looking after the mark, of course. And that's probably the most likely thing. It probably wasn't the ride. It was probably the ride that he was asked to give. So he got his experience around Cheltenham, ran a nice race, ran on. So he's one that you have to be interested in. So I would certainly agree with that. Of the Elliott pair, I would absolutely certainly be in the on the side of Frontal Assault. He's already done as much as Smoking Gun has in his career. Smoking Gun's an exposed horse. Frontal Assault's running 3 chases, so it's a bit of a no-brainer. Okay, one's at 4-1, one's at 6-1. I'll take the 4-1 any day with those 2 profile of horses. Rob James is as good as, or if he's not as good as Jamie Codd, he's not far behind him. There's no disadvantage really there, I don't think. So Frontal Assault will be the one for me for win purposes. The one that I think possibly can give him the most to think about is Mr. Coffey. I think potentially stepped up to 3 miles. I think he has the potential to be quite a smart horse. I think again Henderson's done a pretty good job of handicapping a horse. I think partly accidentally, partly by design. He's got a mistake in him. That's the only thing. So I'll be interested to see who rides him. I suspect he'll probably get somebody going on who's a plus in these kind of races, and certainly knows his way around this course and distance. He's won a Gold Cup, so I think Mr. Coffey is particularly interesting. I know that they think a lot of him at home, and for him to get enough 137, he's got to be a danger to the favourite. So they'd be the ones that I'd focus on.
Lovely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, no one's mentioned Ain't That a Shame yet, but he's only 8-1. He's one that was on the short list, and yeah. I assume a lot of people I know a lot of people on the forum are already on, but 8-1's a bit short for me. Schoolboy Hours similar would have been of interest, but I'm absolutely smitten on Frontal a Certainty. I just, from that run where he dead heated for second, staying on, it was so obvious that this was the plot, and he was 139, getting 145 obviously isn't ideal, but the handicap is just, I think he's just made the decision. He's like, right, I know what you're doing, and I'm gonna punish you as best I can. He can't put him out of the race because that would be ludicrous. It'd cause too many headlines, so he's giving him top weight, and he's still gonna win. They're gonna claim the 7 off him, and he's still gonna win. I think Frontal Assault is better than Smoking Gun. Or the difference that Frontal Assault is better than Smoking Gun is bigger than the difference between Codd and Rob James and that claim. So I agree with you there, Spectre. I just think Frontal Assault's an absolute good thing in this. Like I've gone absolutely nuts on him myself, and at 4-1 he's the one I'd put up as well. I wouldn't look at anything else. I even Smoking Gun. I think best price is 7-1 with cod on. It's not good enough. Like, it's Frontal Assault is absolutely laid out for this. And again, it's another one where Gordon's going to have looked at it all year. And by this point, Fleur's going to have won. Grand Paradis going to have won. Buddy Rich is going to have won. Frontal Assault's going off even money in that now. But I absolutely love it. He's so obviously made for this race. His best run over hurdles was over 3 miles as well. He's gonna absolutely sluice up. It's gonna be embarrassing. But won't carry on because he's the 4-1 favourite. And Hilaire.
Kev, was that sort of edging into high pitched even money? A small warm up for the next podcast when we get to the Albert Bartlett.
Might be. Who knows? I have got a pretty hilarious one that I've backed though. Anyone know what it is? I've backed this horse in a Gold Cup before, more than once.
Janica?
Elegant Escape.
Oh.
Now, I've backed Elegant Escape for this at 33-1, which is funny. And I'm not even sure I'm putting it up as a tip, but I'm just putting myself out there because I backed Elegant Escape to win Gold Cups. Now, obviously on the forum there was one member who was quite keen on Elegant Escape and wound a lot of people up being so ridiculous about it. However, at the right price.
It was just fishing. It was probably big fishing actually, but there we go.
Potentially. However, just looking at the actual horse, like he's got some really good staying form. He's just an absolute plodder. But last time he raced at Cheltenham, he was rated 161 in the Gold Cup, and he finished 19 lengths behind Albion Photo, off 161. Fast forward to 2 years' time, and he's now going to be running this race off 140. So he's £21 better off than he was when. All right, he was walloped in the Gold. Well, he's 11th in the Gold Cup, but 19 lengths behind Albion Photo. He's now 10. I don't think it's the most ludicrous shout in the world that an absolute plodder, £21 lower than being 19 lengths behind a Gold Cup winner, could have a say in this race. Now, he might well be even bigger on the day when declared 33-1, 5 places. No one's going to fancy him on the planet because why would they? But I just think there's a case there to be made from it. I was a little bit. I came onto him from the Tizard stable, so I already mentioned Oscar Elite and Elegant Escape as both going for this race. And Oscar Elite had obviously placed in the Albert Bartlett last year, albeit quite well beaten, but he placed. And we didn't mention him for the Ultima, but that's more competitive. And I just thought, like, the handicap has really given him a chance. Like, £21 is a lot to come down. He's only 10, which, all right, only 10, as if that's a positive, but he's now 10, but he's off 140, and there's not many horses in this race that would be, I don't know, good enough to run in a Gold Cup, let's say. So I don't know. If it depends who Tizard can get on him, and like I say, he might be 50, 66 to 1 on the day, and I'd probably chance him then. And it's a bit of a joke bet, really, but still. As soon as I know Frontal Assault wins, I need something to fill the places. So Elegant Escape for me, off 140.
The only other one I would mention is Come On Teddy, off 137, third in last year's Attempts final, not beaten that far, off 134, 3 runs over fences. It'd be interesting to see who's going to ride it, but not one I would rule out by any means.
Yeah,
and he was out at the Ultima today, wasn't he? So this is definitely the...
That said actually it was the target. Just going back to Elegant Escape, I think that's a fair enough bet, to be fair, Kev. Because I suspect all of us will have at least one horse that's beaten 50, 60 lengths, so that one might as well be yours.
Well, yeah. Who knows? Perfect. Okay, so best bets. This is the longest one so far. We're starting to waffle. So, best bet of the day. We've all agreed each way it's Mighty Blue.
Yes. Take that.
Yeah, I'll agree with that each way. And my win is actually win double Dina Blue and Frontal Assault.
Yeah, to be fair today, Cider Burley. Cider Burley, Fusel Raffles, my Frontal Assault, treble. For me.
I'll go with Flooring Porter.
Yeah. Dino.
Did that come across like an alien to anyone else, or is that just me?
Yeah, that was weird.
Dino Blue for me.
So, right, we've done Patrick's Day, so should we call a halt there? And the next podcast is the Paul Leach Day, which is the Friday.
Oh,
Used to be called the World Cup Day, but I do believe it's been renamed Paul Leach Day.
happy days, right? See you later, guys.